At this time, I'd like Mr. Harris to come forward and give a report from the planning department.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to tell you just for a couple of minutes about just one small thing that got underway last month. It just involves me, actually. Over the last couple of years, maybe even 3 years, this body and the Planning Commission, staff, and a lot of developers and citizens have spent a lot of time talking about sidewalks. And all that activity led to changes to both the zoning code and the subdivision regulations as to new construction. I think we closed up some gaps that needed closing. So now if you build something new in Russellville, you're probably going to have to build some sort of sidewalk to some degree, which is a good thing, I think. We needed to do that, and we were overdue. But when you talk about new sidewalks, you're talking about a couple hundred feet in front of a business, or a few hundred feet in a small subdivision, or even in something like Overland Park with 80-plus lots, you're talking a few thousand feet. And when you compare the new with the existing sidewalk inventory or system, which comprises miles and miles and miles, I'm not even sure that we have even a rough estimate of how many miles of sidewalk we have. So the new is just, I'm glad we've made those changes, but it's really a drop in the bucket in the total sidewalk picture. Really, ever since I got here, I've been thinking about we needed to have some sort of an inventory of sidewalk conditions, and I've heard rumors that there was one, and there was one underway, but I never saw it and never really heard that there actually was, so I just decided I would just start one. I started when good weather hit back in March, and I've already done probably a couple hundred photographs. Initially, I was just going to do downtown, but the more I do it, the more I'm going to try to spread it out. I'm thinking that I'll include at least Main, Arkansas, Parkway, or at least a chunk of Parkway, 4th Street. That part of it's still in flux as to what I can include, because if I'm going to do it all by myself, it's going to take a while. I am not doing a big, highly technical, in-depth thing where I'm measuring angles and slopes and grades and things. I don't think we have time for that. There are certainly firms out there that'll do that kind of work, and it'll be $40, $50, $70, $80,000 to do a city the size of Russellville. To me, that's overkill. But it'll be comprehensive in the sense that the areas that I cover will have a complete list of the shortcomings of the sidewalks there. It won't be comprehensive in that I'm not going to go out into every neighborhood. I just don't think I can swing that. And it won't be comprehensive in the sense that it'll be highly technical. I think this is necessary for us to have a realistic shot at making good decisions about where to spend limited funds on fixing sidewalks. I bet every one of you could list 6 or 8 or 10 places you know where sidewalks, where there's a serious problem. Some of those you'd fix it and probably might not make a big change. There are other places where you literally have hundreds of feet of sidewalk in pretty good shape, and then some barrier or some real problem, and then another several hundred feet of sidewalk. But that barrier, especially for someone with a handicap, basically negates the value of that sidewalk, because you can't really go from A to B because there's that thing right there in the middle. So my notion is that being a planner, the first thing you do when you have a problem is you inventory what you have, because you can't figure out how to get to a better place until you know what you have. So that's my little project that I'm doing. I'm still in flux about how widespread I'm going to try to do it. It's going to take me many weeks to do it, so it's not going to be something I'm going to hand to you. But I hope to have at least a report that will give you some kind of notion, a little bit better information, how to prioritize, again, where to spend limited funds on sidewalks. I've talked with Mr. Oaks a couple of times briefly about this. I'm not going to be at cross purposes with him by doing this. But I'll look for any input that you'd like to have. If you have some places in town, you know, mine, I'm human too, and mine's going to be based somewhat on the places I'm familiar with and the places I go. So once I get beyond Maine and Arkansas and downtown, I'll be looking for input if somebody has a stretch they think really should be included. And the things I'm looking for are places where we have pairs of, you know, things that generate trips, origins and destinations that are likely to have potential for pedestrian use. And I don't want to get political here, but I think we all would agree that the chances are fairly high that 10 years from now gas will be more, and we'll be trying to walk more and bicycle more. This is not something that happens overnight. It's an incremental thing, so the sooner we start. But we've got a pretty good sidewalk system, but there are obviously problems everywhere, and there's some places where a relatively inexpensive fix can render a stretch much more usable than it is now. So that's really all I have, but I look forward to any kind of input any of you would like to have. So, thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Harris.